It's still always there. I think every time you have a defeat, it takes a few days to get it over. But the full focus now is on Newcastle. Is obviously things that we had to do much better in the game, especially the way we compete, the way we conceded the goals. I don't think that the scoreline reflects what happened in the game at all. But we should have done much better.
Did you learn much about the depth of your squad in that match?
No, you learn about that every game is very different to the previous one, and you have to be at it. And you take the foot out of the gas in any action in this league against this type of opponent, you get punished. And it's as simple as that. So you have to keep the standards at the maximum level if you want to keep winning and winning.
In terms of team news, are you able to welcome back any players who haven't been available over the last few weeks?
We have another training session, so there's a possibility, but I don't know.
In terms of Emil Smith-Rowe, have you got any further details on his injury?
Nothing has changed. As I said, I think he will be out for weeks. How many would determine, obviously, in relation to how he progressed the first few weeks especially. And yeah, big blow because he was getting some momentum and some minutes, and we were starting to get the meal that we needed, but unfortunately he's going to be out again.
And Martin Odegaard's playing time has been managed over the last two matches. How much has that benefited him, and will he be in a position to potentially start tomorrow?
Yeah, we have tried to offload him a little bit because he had a little issue that he was grumbling with. He felt much better in the last few days. We gave him a few minutes against West Ham, which was good to see, and his contribution was really good. And he will train today, and if he's fine, he will be ready.
And finally, for me, the West Ham go top tomorrow if you're victorious. How do you reflect on the start of the season?
That is very early, that we have to go game by game, that we are in a really good position, and we have to continue to be there. Tomorrow we have a really tough match against Newcastle, but it's the games that you have to play when you want to be at the top.
Thanks, James. We'll go to Anita from the Premier League.
Morning, Mikel.
Hi.
I understand that you obviously want to focus on the game coming up, but I just have one question relating to the performance against West Ham. How concerned are you that the standards that you speak of and the quality that Arsenal fans have become used to seeing their team play with dropped so much then?
Well, it dropped especially in one phase in the second half. And when that happened, then you have to compete in a different way to try to recover the momentum in the game, and we didn't do that well enough. We know the standards, and we know that the way we play, especially the second half, like the other day, is not good enough.
And then in terms of Newcastle tomorrow, they're unbeaten since their loss to Brighton. St James's Park has become a fortress of late. And how much of a test are you expecting?
A big one of the toughest places to go and win. We've done it. It's nothing new to it. We know what we expect. Very, very clear what they do, what the strengths are, where the opportunities are as well for us. And we will try to take the game where we want.
And are you seeing a confident squad that can recover from that game and go ahead and, as we just heard, potentially...
This is football. The next game is the next game. The next day you have to be focused, and our full focus energy is now beating Newcastle. That's it.
Thank you. That's it.
Ian from TalkSport.
Hi, Mikel. Are you well?
Right. Yeah.
What do you make of the job that Eddie Howe's done? Because I think when Newcastle were taken over and became the richest club in the world, a lot of people wondered whether or not he would be able to take them to the next level.
Huge credit to him. I think he has transformed the club, the environment, the atmosphere, what he has created in the team as well, such a belief in what they do, and that's a huge compliment to him for what they've done.
I think you've both, in a way, done similar jobs with the clubs you're at.
I don't know. Every club is different. I have huge credit for what he's done, the way he's done it, the way his team plays, the environment that he has created is fantastic, and yeah. He had a lot of support, which we all needed as well, and they are now big contenders.
You were talking about how the standards maybe dropped a little bit at West Ham the other night. Can I ask you a question I asked you a month ago and you said no, so you probably say no again. Are you concerned about the form of Kai Havertz? Amongst a lot of players, I think.
No, and I'm not going to put any individual as you expect. You know, we are a team, and when we play for the best is the team. When we don't, I am the maximum responsible for that, and we all need to try to improve every single day. That's the...
Finally, a player you've been linked with, I'm not necessarily saying you're going to buy him or you're even interested in him, is Ivan Toney. This week, Brentford apparently put a £100 million price tag on him if someone wants to buy him in January. It's more about that really. You spent £100 million on a player in the summer. Chelsea spent £100 million twice on a player. It now seems that we've gone from being 20, 30, 40 million is quite a lot to spend on a player to nearly every player is now worth £100 million. As a manager and someone who's been involved in football a long time, do you find that a little bit crazy?
Well, I think there's been an evolution. I think we've gone from the 10s to the 20s to the 80s to the 100. There've been players that cost 220 million as well, you know. So it's not that we are getting used to it, but yeah, it's something that is happening and it's happening more and more often. But yeah, and about all the players, all the clubs, what we are doing, is no comment on that.
Is that something a manager thinks about, the price tag, how much it costs to buy the player before they buy them?
First of all, is what can we do to improve our team, and then can we afford it, and does it make sense in our project to spend certain money in certain players, and there is a lot of work to be done there.
Mark, Press Association?
Hi.
Ben White will make his 100th appearance for Arsenal if he plays tomorrow. I assume he will. Can you just talk about his evolution from someone who struggled on his debut to someone who's now probably one of your most key players?
Yeah, I think he's progressed in the right way in the last few years. As you said, he had a little bit of a difficult start, which is normal because it was a big jump, different expectations, started to play as well in certain different positions. But I think he showed a lot of determination and courage to overcome any of that. I think he has a big personality. I think he goes with pressure really well. He has a lot of quality. He gives us different positions, and he's been a key player for us.
A lot of your key players over the last year. As well as you close to him, you do.
Yeah, we are always trying to keep the squad in a healthy position in any way, and the club and Edu especially are working on that.
He's a bit of a strange character, Ben, in the sense that whenever we talk to him, he talks about how he doesn't particularly even like football, he doesn't really watch football. But hey, is it important to have different characters around the training ground?
Yeah, and he's a really good character on his own way, and the way he is, the way he presents himself. But he loves football. The way, even though you don't play that amount of game, the way he trains every day, the way he applies himself is top, and we need players like him.
Jordan from The Athletic.
Mikel, just on Gabby Jesus, on his injury, do you know if he's going to definitely be back after the international break?
I cannot guarantee that. We are trying to get a recovery as quick as possible. I said that it will be weeks, but very difficult to put a time frame still right now.
When you're planning your squad, he's obviously such an important player. How disruptive is this that, that's the maybe third or fourth injury that he's had in the last year?
It's football, is what happens. He hasn't had a lot of muscle injuries. It's true that the load that he had in the last few weeks to what he's done in the past, even when he was at City, has been very, very different. And he's still adapting to it. We lost 4 big players in the last few weeks, but it's the challenges that you have throughout the season.
For Eddie, at the weekend, this could be his 100th Premier League start. Does the fact that he played 8 or 10 games in the league so far, and that he's got such a big role in the squad, does that vindicate his decision to stay and fight rather than go somewhere else where he was guaranteed playing?
Yes, but I think he has earned that right, and we tried to explain him what his role was in the team, and then the opportunities that he was going to have, like any other player, in relation to his performances, and the fact that he's played that many games is for his own performances, and the reason he's given us to trust him.
Yeah, I don't think it looks good, but I think he's having a scan today, so we'll know more then. I think whenever you see a player come off with a hamstring injury, you sort of fear the worst, but let's see when we get the scan.
A couple of players that would normally start that weren't in your matchday squad the other day, Nick Pope and Fabian Schär, were they just rested?
Yeah, Nick's fine. Fabi was just a little bit under the weather, hence why I didn't travel.
I think the draw was made after you did your post-match interviews at Old Trafford. It's another tough one, isn't it? I mean, in Champions League and in the League Cup, you've had some hard draws this season. What do you make of the fact you'll have to go to Chelsea in the quarter-finals?
Yeah, I think the draw sort of falls in line with every other draw that we've had this season. It's been really challenging for us, I think, to go to Stamford Bridge. I think, really difficult assignment. But I think we proved at Manchester United that we can go anywhere and attempt to win, so that won't change.
And how good has it been over the last couple of weeks, and particularly Wednesday, to be able to use your squad and use it so effectively? Because at Wolves, obviously, you were light with attacking reinforcements on the bench. He made a number of changes at Manchester United and gave some players some important time on the pitch during this really intense period.
Yeah, I think it was great to be able to give everyone an opportunity, and I thought they responded magnificently. It was a brilliant team effort. I thought the spirit, determination, collective mindset was at the highest level. Some players who haven't played for a long time thought gave really huge performances. I'm thinking Emil Kraft, 14 months out with a long-term injury. What a return. And also playing at centre-back. So really pleased with him. And there's others. Joe Willock's first start in a long time, and he topped it with a goal. So some really good stories there.
Looking ahead to this weekend, Arsenal come to St James's Park unbeaten in the Premier League. No surprise to you, I'm sure, that they are up there again and presumably once more in the title race. Yeah,
well, I think Arsenal last year, it speaks for itself what they achieved. I thought they were so close to winning the league, and then in the summer I thought they recruited really well. Obvious player who's such an impressive individual and player is Declan Rice, and I think when you add him to their midfield, I think he's got unique qualities. So I think they've moved on from last year, and I think they've mentally moved on from what happened, and I think they've performed very well, as you say, unbeaten. So really big test of our credentials. I think we're looking forward to the game, but Mikel's done a brilliant job there.
You had two good battles with them last season, didn't you? You got a great point in London, and then you lost the home match, but some controversy at the start with a penalty, but you were certainly in that game, weren't you, competing with Arsenal?
Yeah, it's funny, watched that game back in preparation for this one as part of our preparation, and you always watch it back with a different eye, because when you're there and you're watching it back a couple of days later, or at the time you're emotional about the game, and then you watch it a few months later, and I thought we played really well actually, and we were unlucky to lose. I thought it was a really good game between two elite teams, so I think we can take a lot from that game and a lot of confidence from our general performance.
Last thing, there's been a lot of work going on at the training ground over the last year or so. Driving in, it looks as though much of it might have been completed. Has it been finished now, and what sort of shape are your training facilities in, certainly compared to how they were?
Yeah, well, it's transformed. The training ground is in a much better place than it was. I don't think it's totally finished. I still think there's different things going on, but I think the players who are the most important people will notice a big difference to their working environment. Now I think they have the environment that matches our ambitions, and I think it's really important they have all the tools and all the things needed to make sure when it comes to a match day they're in the best place possible to perform. So a big thank you to the club for giving us these facilities.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rose. Keith?
Eddie, with 7 or 8 players out injured, it feels like you've got a lot of options ahead of this one against Arsenal, given the displays of those that came in on Wednesday night.
Yeah, certainly. We're in a good place mentally after that win. I think the whole squad will be lifted by that performance. I think, yes, we're going to miss the players that are out injured. There's no denying that. Especially, as I said, I think last week, a lot of those players are in attacking positions, so that leaves us slightly short in those areas, but certainly defensively with the players that came in, it was great to see the team not affected by the changes. It was a Newcastle performance, which is what we asked for before the game, so testament to those players and their attitudes really.
And you started Anthony Gordon up front. I know you said to us last week that you bought him with that intention. It looks like you've got that as an option now moving forward, and how does that make your team look moving forward, the fact you can have someone playing so many positions like that?
Yeah, well, I do think it's important in the modern game now that the beauty of Anthony, when we signed him, we knew he could play on the left, on the right, and as a central striker. As I said, he did it for Everton and did it very well. I thought he was really good the other night. I think he linked play well. His movement was good, but his obvious sort of go-to strength is his pace and his athleticism, and I thought that was evident in that position. So I was really pleased with his overall game.
Newcastle Arsenal, always an interesting one. Newcastle have won 1 of the last 10 against Arsenal, and they failed to score in 8 of those games. Don't see that happening this time. Do you?
They could do. Arsenal. One of the things Arsenal are really good at is out of possession. I know they've got some injuries. A lot depends on Ødegaard, because Ødegaard's he's amazing on the ball, obviously, but off the ball, his work rate, his effort, his intelligence is unbelievable. So yeah, if he is back, that's a big boost for them. But yeah, you do feel like St James's Park is one of those difficult places to go to again. Energy, Trippier's set pieces into the box, that kind of stuff. Although again, is Arsenal's set piece record's unbelievable.
Yeah, really good.
So it wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal were to go away and keep it tight and get something, because Newcastle, not quite like Chelsea, but you never quite know what you're going to get with Newcastle. Beating PSG.
Yeah. Ryan, a lot of teams off this week.
I'm not writing him off. I'm just saying I don't know what I'm going to get.
Brutal. He's been absolutely brutal. I just meant because Newcastle
have been scoring. I knew exactly what you meant, Jules.
Yeah, but
when you get 8 against Sheffield United,
I know exactly what you meant. Doesn't matter. They have to put them away. They're in good form. Wilson's in great form.
They're in good form.
Although Wilson doesn't tend to score against Arsenal in a Newcastle shirt, so he might not score, but he might.
Have you seen Newcastle's record against the top 7 teams?
Not good.
They lost 5 games last season, and I think all of them were against teams at the top. And this season, the games they've lost have been against teams at the top.
Yeah, so they definitely do beat the teams that they should beat. And
so am I going to have to referee
here? More difficult.
Oh no, we're on the same page.
We're in the best form. I think you heard Eddie Howe say there they think Arsenal are a lot better this season than they were last. I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't see that with Arsenal this year. I think they were really consistent last year in the early stages. They were
amazing this time.
Yeah, this time last year, if you compare the two, I think they don't look as good. Of course, they've had a couple of injuries with that. I think it will be a good game. But I do think Newcastle could beat them. I think they're coming off back of a huge result midweek against Manchester United away. I think that's big. And then they go away to Dortmund. But both teams have injuries. I think that could be a difference in the result. St James's Park, going to St James's Park, when Arsenal aren't in great form off the back of a defeat to West Ham midweek in the Cup, where it wasn't an Arsenal team that, I recognise for sure. I'm sure Arteta would have got into them after that game. And then travelling away, after already being away, when West Ham's just down the road. But I say Newcastle win.
The reason why I was asking about Newcastle is because of this fantastic scoring record they had at the start of the season. Callum Wilson's goals, it takes him like an hour on average. He's been averaging a goal every hour. It is remarkable. And we're looking at some of his goals now. That's the reason why I didn't see a repeat of that stat. 8 games not scoring.
Yeah, it probably helped them as well that he didn't start against United in the week, didn't he? Because obviously Newcastle made a lot of changes. And another thing about Newcastle this season is they've got to get used to the midweek games. Obviously, the Carabao Cup, you would expect that. But with the Champions League as well, it does accumulate. And I mean, sorry to bring it back to a City thing, but Guardiola, when he talked about Grealish in his first season and Jeremy Doku now, they weren't used to playing 3 games a week. That's something that physically you need to get used to. And he doesn't like putting them through it. But when you're an entire squad that's not used to that, in fact, Roberto De Zerbi said that about Brighton as well, and not just their Europa League games, but he mentioned players playing international football now that didn't last season, and it is difficult. So therefore, with Newcastle, maybe that's why, for me at least, I think they're a bit unpredictable.
Yeah.
It's because they're going through this as an entire squad. It's not like 1 or 2 players you can leave out. It's all of them. I think we've seen it with Brighton. And although they have obviously scored the most goals in the Premier League, they are a bit more unpredictable.
They actually lead the league in so many attacking metrics, shot conversion rates, and so I can go on. Why are they scoring all these goals? What's changed about their attacks?
Jules loves to ask me the questions that I always say I don't know to.
You don't know?
I don't know. No, I was just speaking before. Obviously, I do. I think it comes from wide areas. I think if you look at the Newcastle midfield, it's a bit similar to Liverpool when they won the league, a few years back now, when they had that energetic midfield. Energy in
my points.
No, but it's true. we just spoke about it off air. They had energy in midfield, and it was a Salah, a Mane at Liverpool at the time that was creating most of the goals and scoring. It's similar now at Newcastle. What's happening? Their wide players are getting early crosses in for strikers like Wilson. That is, he likes the early delivery. He's a striker. He's a target man up there. So they have players that are working behind the ball that allows for your more attacking-minded players to get forward because they know they've got the responsibility in the backup behind.
Yeah, and Trippier as well. Just an obvious threat with crosses. Is unbelievable.
Deliveries. I mean, they probably should score more from set plays with him delivering.
Well, Arsenal have scored the most goals from set plays, from corners. They have a set-piece coach, Nicholas Jova. Let's talk about it, because I think set-piece coach just shows us how far and how technical we've become in the game. And this was not one of Arsenal's strengths, and they've changed that.
Yeah, they took it. He was at City. Did he come from Brentford to City?
I was going to say, it's something that Brentford originally did. I think the first time I'd heard of it was that Brentford had a set-piece coach and they really, honed in on it.
Yeah, so
it was something
I
that
think
they
might
really
have got him
believed
from Brentford, and then he's obviously gone to Arsenal, but now City have got a new set-piece coach midway through last season. He's from Brentford as well.